What is up here? We're going to be talking about Tales of the Underworld, little May the 4th special that we got from Lucasfilm Animation to celebrate Star Wars Day. My name is Tyler, here on the Star Wars Newsnet team, joined by my good friend Tom. Tom, animation is back. It feels like it's been such a long time since we've watched something Star Wars animation, because I don't it hasn't been that long in retrospect, but the Bad Batch and then Tales of the Empire from last May 4th just feels so long ago that it feels fun to like dive, back into something, even if it's these just, 6 quick shorts that are only 12 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's welcome back animation. I big fan, and every time they release something new, you just see how far they've come in the medium.
Right. They've earned so much goodwill too from me and what they do, what they put out. While I was skeptical of having a Cad Bane backstory, and I didn't really understand, like, really, like Tales of the Underworld, we're gonna go with Cad Bane. I feel like we've told every Cad Bane story that there needs to be. Like, this isn't that big of a character, and then boom, they tell such a wonderfully tragic tale with him, but in no way did they change. Like, they didn't make me feel like a sympathy from the fact, like, oh my goodness, this poor Cad Bane, versus he's still a ruthless, badass, but like bounty hunter, like that's cold-blooded. But there's just a whole layer of depth there that I wasn't expecting. And then it's always great to see Asajj Ventress back on, your screen in animation. So let's start with Asajj and that first, 3, because that's probably the more popular one people would gravitate to first. And then, it's the first 3 on there. So my initial thoughts were that I liked the second 3 episodes a little more, honestly. But with the Asajj Ventress arc, I was pleasantly surprised that they dove into a little of how she survived. I was wondering if they were just going to gloss over it completely and just be like, she's back. But I did like how they did that for the Dark Disciple fans out there to have like a little bit of closure, but also they leave the door open for more stories here. So I'm actually a little excited, because I think this might mean they want to do more with Asajj in the future. And they're like, hey, this is where she is and how she ends up getting to where she's going to be, and whatever we have her doing in the future. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we see her show up somehow in some sort of like appearance in Maul, like the Shadow Lord series they're doing. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if she popped up in something like that. I was really pleasantly surprised to see how much emotion she showed, especially with Lyko, the young one. But I'm curious, where were you on the Asajj arc that we got?
Well, somehow Asajj returned.
Of course.
So, yeah, I was really happy. I mean, I'm gonna you and Luke, I know, are the book guys, and I knew the story of Dark Disciple, but I did not read it, and I kind of regret that. So I should probably pick it up and actually read it. But I'm really happy that they addressed that elephant in the room of how she came back. As far as that, it left me with some questions about how the Night Sisters, what is,
Right.
it's always been, it's never really addressed in the movies till I guess episode 9 touched on it, but how the Sith or the dark side users, what their concept of the afterlife is. I think there might have been a Clone Wars arc that touched on that when they had Darth Bane, but basically about how that works in the series.
Right.
So I felt like it seemed to organically work for me. I think I did want more information, but it might have been too exposition heavy then about how it returned. I think I was watching it again, and I saw some commentaries online, and it looked like, I don't know if it was as clear to me the first viewing that Mother Talzin was really giving her that choice to maybe go back to the land of the living or be with the Night Sisters. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, some people, I guess, read from that if she does take that path that she did end up taking to return to the land of the living, that she can't go back to be with the Night Sisters. I don't know if that's what...
That's not the interpretation that I saw. That I got. It was more of a, you can go back to the land of living, but you must give up your heart's desire, as in ultimately, like, you can't be with Quinlan anymore, was kind of how I took it. But like, she could go back and live the life maybe that she now wants to live, but she
Hmm.
can't necessarily do that with Quinlan. And I was trying to watch it, like that opening sequence, from the perspective of someone who isn't familiar with the books, and just someone who's a Clone Wars fan, because how funny do you think it is, if, because most people don't read Star Wars books, like, there's this small niche community of people that are reading all these books and comics, and then there's another, niche community of people who are super into the animation. Like, there's so many people that are just, it's like the Star Wars web just kind of gets bigger and bigger. You have your books and comics, animation like lovers, and then you have people who watch all the TV shows too, and then on the macro look, you have the people that just tune in for the big films. So how many people actually were watching that for the first time going, wait, Asajj Ventress died, and then she had a relationship with Quinlan Voss, like, for the first time? Like, that would have been such a mind-blowing experience to have if you weren't aware to some degree. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there like that. I thought it was handled well. I think I looked at it as just, she chose to come back, but she might not be able to be with the one she loves anymore. And
Hmm.
that maybe if she dies and comes back, she could still be with the Night Sisters. It was more of a, if you stay with us, or if you go back, you're gonna have to give up something to go back, though.
Right.
And Asajj making that choice, and then when we see how I interpreted this as, she makes that choice, but maybe there was a little regret for a little while, because she goes straight into this isolated mode where she just wants a quiet, peaceful life, but she's alone, and she seems to be telling everyone she's content to be alone. But very quickly, once she kind of gets, Lyco out of trouble, and the two of them are going their journey, this is about how she maybe has lost Quinlan, but she's open to reopening herself back up to some sort of, to friendships, to trust, to loyalty, to, loving someone, obviously not in a romantic sense with Lyco, but just having someone that she really cares about again.
Mhm.
And that person being okay having to rely on someone else in some capacity.
Yeah, and one thing though that I was curious about is, was she like kind of on the honor system not to find Quinlan Voss, or
Right.
what, was she prevented from, I don't know, their paths crossing in some way? Because I didn't catch that
Mhm.
in it, so I don't know what's keeping her from, I guess, finding him and
Mhm.
being with him.
That's, I guess, like the Night Sister magic. Like, if she goes and sees me, and like maybe she like, I don't know what happens. They didn't really
Yeah,
say it, but also her heart's desire. Maybe that doesn't mean anything. Like, maybe that we're not even on the right track. Like, who knows what that
yeah.
means? I was wondering if, like, he was there and she went to go see him, like everyone else, no, like he can't see her, or like she can't physically talk to him, like she's almost like a ghost to him, like he doesn't see her, and like I'll be like, this is my friend, like, that's helping, and he's like, who, like for whatever reason, that there's some sort of force
Mm.
thing going on where he wouldn't be able to interact with her, like they can't ever interact. But we didn't see anything happen, so obviously, I the only thing that we have right now is that she just can't do that, and for whatever reason, and she's
Yeah,
tempted
that
herself
was,
to do it.
I guess, one of my criticisms, and it's just maybe my impatience, is that
Mhm.
I enjoyed the arc, but I felt like it didn't really feel like a full arc.
Right.
I wanted to see more of what happens with, I guess, her. I don't know. Is it her apprentice? Is it just her, uh, someone who's going to follow her around and learn from her? But
I took it as
I
just
guess
a
I
young
wanted to see
friend.
more of how that plays out. And like you said, we
Mhm.
might see it in the mall show.
The mall show, or I mean, they've been willing to do these little specials. Like, it's a possibility that if they were to do a Tales of the Jedi, that because it seems like, not saying that she's choosing to be a Jedi now, but since she's back on the path, I guess, towards the light in some sense, like she's obviously, not afraid to get dirty and messy, with the dark side. Probably still, I don't think she's going to hesitate necessarily to tap into some rage or some fear if things go wrong. But at the same time, she seems to actively be choosing a different way. And I think Lyko being there would be helpful. And he's a Jedi Padawan from before. So I could
Mhm.
see if they did like a Tales of Jedi season 2, having an Asajj and Lyko story makes some sense. I have long been wanting just to do a full season of Tales of the Jedi season 2, like just
Mhm.
do like 15 episodes, 5 different Jedi arcs, and just have the full thing. And because that's just an endless machine that they could go to that works for me. I get what you're saying, though. I'm feeling like there was some meat left on the bone with the Asajj arc. Like what was her next step? And the only way I really can rationalize feeling okay with it is that this was just about us getting to see who Asajj is now and like how she is going to get to be the person that she is for the future. And if we never see her again, that's okay, because this character that we've gotten to know through the Clone Wars, and we saw how she was used and tossed away and had all these horrible things happen. She turns out okay, and she's going to be okay. And I think that in itself, I can be okay with the fact that that's a beautiful story, even if it's not necessarily told as cleanly and tightly as I would like.
So another thing, I'm just curious because I know you've read the book, but Dark Disciple. So she's killed by Dooku. How much time has passed since when they, I guess, her burial till? I assume that was obviously before the events of Episode 3.
Right.
Until we see her again, I guess time has passed because now the Empire is in
Mhm.
power. So
So the way I interpreted it was that it's unclear a little bit if she's appearing, because the Empire is clearly, going. And so I'm guessing this is mostly after the Bad Batch, maybe, but I'm also thinking maybe it's
yeah,
because actually no, maybe it's before, because she's starting to get connected with different people again, and she learns about Umaga, but it's really unclear. My initial thought was after the Bad Batch, just because the stormtroopers were just being introduced in Bad Batch, and we don't see any clones at all in
right.
the Ventress arc. It feels like the Empire is pretty firm. So
Hmm.
my guess would have been like it's been after Bad Batch, and they just went like, "Hey, this is what happened," and then a bunch of time passed, and here we are. Like a few years have passed, because that could have easily, like, I forget the exact timeline when that happens, but obviously it's before Episode 3, and when we see her, the clones, there's no sign of clones. It feels like stormtroopers and the Empire have a firm footing. So it's hard to say. I'm okay with not knowing the exact timeline, I guess, but the path has been clearly established by Quinlan. So maybe this is a closer to the time of the Kenobi show sort of thing.
Hmm.
Maybe a couple years before, but you know, we don't really know Quinlan Boss's full story and how when he dies or how he dies, because in Kenobi, remember, Obi-Wan's like, Quinlan was here, sort of thing. Like,
Right.
and so it could have been yesterday, and so who knows? But I kind of just like it sometime in those few years.
Yeah, I wonder what they're saving for live action with Quinlan Voss because he's been such a, I guess, fan favorite,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't seen him in anything live action yet. But I thought we'd see him in Obi-Wan after his name was dropped, but we'll see.
I thought we were gonna see him in the Inquisitorious chamber after he was dropped, but we ended up not. And freaking, they had to drop old Terra Sanube in there on me like that. It was just
Yeah,
horrifying.
it
But
was.
did you like what did you think about her relationship with Lyco?
I really liked it. I mean, we've, I was reading Miguel's review, and he
Mm-hmm.
said some of the beats were familiar, and I
Right.
understand that. But I really liked it. I liked how it was written. I
Mm-hmm.
liked how I liked how it developed, and it's interesting to see. We haven't seen too much. I mean, we. I'm trying to think of you know, with the
Mm-hmm.
exception of Maul and Ezra in Rebels, as far as a dark side user. Now I know she's on the right path now, but
Right.
taking, I guess, some sort of an apprentice or someone to or have that relationship like that.
Mhm.
And she had, she spent time with Omega, and if we think this
Mhm.
is after that, it's interesting to see. I liked it. I liked their relationship. That, to me, that was, I guess, the strongest part of that
Mhm.
arc.
I guess it is a familiar beat, but there's something about that arc, that story, this trope that they keep going back to. It feels timeless to me in Star Wars,
Yes.
especially in the context of animation and like these shorter episodes. It's not like we're having a full series built on something that we've seen time and time again in Star Wars. It's more of like, here's another quick story for you. It's relatively inconsequential in the grand scheme of Star Wars. So if we're telling this small 3 arc story or 3 episode arc story that's, doesn't have really galactic stakes about a character that, I've seen for a long time since I was a kid, I'm okay with going back to the hits almost in terms of character learns how to love again and learns how to trust again, learns how to open themselves up to make a friend and help a little one along the way to safety. And that feels like a full arc though for Asajj that we've seen for a long time. Like she was someone who was, cast aside several
Mhm.
times and has failed so many times at so many things in her life. And for her to ultimately end up back on this path and choose to help someone and make a real difference and make a change, and for Lyco to choose to want to just be with her and go hang out with her and explore and stay with someone that he now considers to be a good friend. Like to me, that's a perfect way for her story to end, even if we never see her again. Like I can live with that ending. So
Yeah, that
what
that
it's worth.
whole theme running through Star Wars about teachers and learners and the relationship and passing down to the
Mhm.
next generation. It's such a strong, we've seen it in many forms, but it is such a strong theme that runs through, I guess, the saga.
Mhm.
And yeah, I really I liked it. I liked it that he, think about where he's coming from. That he says it's been so long since he's seen a Jedi, to have that
Right.
in common, to find another Force user that understands the Force that he could, I guess, be
Mhm.
close with. It must mean a
Mhm.
lot to him.
And Lyco knows who Asajj is and knows that she's killed people that he's known. And for him to trust her and have that almost, there's a little bit of, childlike naivety that he has to trust her. Like you should not trust her based off of, the track record, but he chooses to anyway. And it pays off, obviously, in some good ways. I liked seeing the Inquisitor kind of take her down, and because a lot of times we see these inquisitors get destroyed so quickly. But it's funny how you have Asajj struggle to some degree with this inquisitor versus what we saw Ahsoka do to the inquisitor in her Tales of the Jedi short, where she just takes him out in 2 seconds and
Right.
just absolutely just melees the inquisitor. So I thought that was interesting that, I guess, Ahsoka had a great day. Asajj, she had a bad day. Okay, it's okay.
All I can say is welcome back, animated lightsaber duels,
Oh
because
man.
those are some of the best in the saga, and this
Mhm.
one was no exception. It was executed extremely well. That was a really great, like,
Mhm.
sequence.
Do you have a favorite animated lightsaber duel?
Um,
Just
it's
off the top of
probably
your head.
between Ahsoka and Maul,
Mhm.
or Maul, Savage Opress, and the Emperor.
When they take
That
on
was
Palpatine.
that was just, oh my gosh, that was phenomenal. But then the one with him and with the Emperor and Yoda is pretty amazing. In that, like, I'm trying to remember. It was towards
Oh,
the end of the original Clone Wars.
when they do the season 6 finale sort of thing,
Yeah,
when Dooku and Palpatine are trying to destroy the Jedi, kind of like right then and there, and
yeah.
it's like it's not time yet. There's still not time, still not time. But no, so just real quickly before we talk about Cad Bane, but the Savage Opress Maul one's like one of my favorites all time. Even though it's like it makes no sense to me that Palpatine would just leave to go fight two saber, like he has two sabers now, and Like, I've always thought he's best used without ever using a saber. Like, I almost sometimes wish in Revenge of the Sith he never even picked up a lightsaber. He just used his force skills and stuff to take him out. But that's purely awesome start, part of my
Yeah.
soul is like, it doesn't get better than watching Palpatine just laugh his way through and toy with them. Like, these are two, this Savage and Darth Maul we're talking about. He's just decided he got bored dealing with the politics. He's like, all right, let me go have some fun tonight. Like, go out, do a little rager with my clone troopers, and then come right back. No, that's a good one.
Awesome.
That's a good one. So let's get into the Cad Bane arc real quick. I was blown away with how much I really enjoyed the tragic backstory that we got for Cad Bane, from growing on the street as like a homeless orphan that's scrounging, like a street rat that's scrounging for everything get, to coming into his own with this gang, looking up to the leader of this gang, ends up with a lady friend who's pregnant with his child that he doesn't know about, to his childhood friend becomes the marshal that kills his role model, goes back, kills him, and finds out at the very end that that was his kid that was next to the marshal. And also for the marshal, his best friend Nero, to get with Aaron, his lady friend. That's also kind of crazy. But and then he sees that it's his kid at the end. There's like that moment of revelation, and then he just turns his back and leaves. And I just want to get into all of that. But there was just the way that they built this tragic backstory for Cad Bane, but also did not, sometimes like they try to Disneyfy, not just Disney, but other places. They try to like the Disneyification, I guess I want to call it, of a villain, where we got to have him like the sob story maybe, or they have to be relatable now. And I was worried they were going to do that with Cad Bane, because there's some characters that I think should just be purely evil, and that's okay. But they did this whole tragic backstory in a way that in a healthy way for his character, because I understand the character more, and I feel something different for Cad Bane, but in no way changes who Cad Bane is in Star Wars, which is the ruthless bounty hunter, fan favorite, cold-blooded killer. Like, that still exists.
Yeah, just judging by the way he took out his friend, and then just when he found out that I guess he has a kid, and he just walks away from it all. Like, you see that, like, no soul in him.
Right. He just doesn't, like, I don't know. He has that moment of revelation. You see the eyes widen there, and I'm like, he does care, because there's a little bit of that's Aaron's legacy, and I wonder if he does care. But at that moment, the marshal, the other woman, comes up and grabs Isaac, his son, and is like, "You stay away from him." And that woman, I think, clearly knows that's his son, but doesn't want his son to get caught up in this. And I think there's a level of this is maybe me projecting way too much kindness and like thoughtfulness into Cad Bane, but I think there's a level of, he knows that he's not a father. Like, he's not fit to raise a kid in any way. He like, my kid's gonna be way better off as an orphan now, essentially, here on this planet with people who probably will look after him, than if I were to pick him up and be like, come on, kid, especially after the kid just saw him murder the guy he believes to be his father, probably to some degree. He called him Papa. So in a way, I think he did what was best for the kid. Now, I would love to know, this is not a story that needs to be told, of like that kid finding out. I'm like, in my own mind, I'm like, I just wanted that kid to know that that was his actual dad that killed Nero. And but that's a story that doesn't ever need to be told. It's just more of a Star Wars talking point. But what did you think about the way that they built the relationship between Colby, Cad, and Nero? They separated, and then Cad comes back with Aaron seeking that revenge, puts on the hat for the first time, kind of got a little bit of that. It was the level of like just hero worship that we got from Cad Bane. I didn't know that, that existed.
It reminded me, and it obviously different results, but it reminded me a lot of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, when if you remember that opening scene when he runs into that guy that he sees as, like, I guess the coolest, even though he's a villain, he kind of takes on his not his mannerisms, but his like persona, as far
Mhm.
as with the hat, and you see that. I love that opening sequence. It kind of builds his character, and it kind of gave me that vibe when you see Cad Bane
Right.
like kind of take that. He wanted that life. He was
Mhm.
so excited that was the life that he wanted. And while Nero he wanted also what came with it. He didn't necessarily want a thug life, basically, like
Right.
to be a criminal. So, but yeah, I thought it was really well done. It's kind of unfortunate that we kind of know what happens to Cad Bane, that his story's kind
Mhm.
of finished. If unless it isn't, we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. I know.
It's finished. It's got to be finished. And I
Yeah.
honestly, I don't think it's unfortunate. Like, he goes out the way he needs to go out. He goes
Yeah.
out finally losing one of his little Western gunslinger battles to Boba, and I think that's the way he needed to go out. Like, that's the way he was always going to go out on a
Yeah.
on a mission in the middle of a fight. I don't think he would want to go out any other way, honestly.
I think it's just, and I have some kind of the same feelings with the sequel trilogy, that it's hard because and I guess this happened with the prequels as well, and I felt it also there, and it's not a bad thing. It's just that we kind of know where things are going to end up. It would have been nice
Mhm.
if the what happened in the Book of Boba Fett, though, like that came after this,
Mhm.
because we would have liked, oh, what happens next with Cad Bane, and then we see him show up in the Book of Boba Fett. It's
Yes.
just personal preference. I think it would have been
Right,
really
just
cool.
sequential, like, order of
Yeah,
way things come out. No, that makes
yeah,
some
like
sense,
like
yeah.
like when I was touching on with the sequel trilogy, like I think it's interesting, kind of some of the story beats they set up in the Mandalorian about the emergence of the First Order, but we already
Right.
know what happens with the First Order. Now it's on them to actually make the twists and turns that we get to the
Mhm.
sequel trilogy era in
Right,
a
of course.
satisfying way. But it's kind of not that it's a disadvantage, I would say, depending on how they get us there. So like
Mhm.
I want more Cad
Because that
Bane,
can work
basically.
for everything, because, like, we're in the midst of Andor right now,
Yeah,
and we know how it all ends there, but some degree, but getting there is just a fun, well, I don't know if fun journey is the right word, because it's sometimes not fun at all, and I'm expecting some catastrophic things to take place this week, as
right.
in I really think that our beloved Bix is going to die. But
Mm,
it's
don't
I'm
put that out there in the
please, I'm
universe.
trying not to. I need to, like. Okay, I take it back. I take it back. Not trying to put that out there, but no, I
That's the
I
Thursday's
get that.
discussion.
This there's we'll save that, or tomorrow night when I'm frantically like texting like it happened. Oh my gosh, I'm so sad. But no, Cat Bane. Back to Cat Bane. There is something to be said that a lot of the same story beats we've seen before, though, like this Western, they hit the music, you got the hands in the holster,
He's
about to
on the
go.
12 o'clock shuttle, like at high
It
noon.
it never gets old for me. It just does it. Like, those little stories do not get old when they do the Western type stories with the bounty hunters, and they're just standing out there, quick draw against one another. Like, it does not get old for me. And I did kind of see the way the story was going once Aaron got introduced to it. I was like, oh, this is where it's all gonna go. And it hit, though. It still hit for me.
Hmm.
And there is a level of, I think, intrigue that goes with Cad Bane's character, and how, if we notice in the future with him, and he's never working with people again. We never see him work with another individual. We just
Mm,
see him, like, usually work with his droid, or like
right,
like what's his, it's like, I forget his droid's name that he has, but really the only time we ever see him working with other individuals, if it's just like a quick job, or yeah, he needs to use someone to escape or something like that. He's never, a part of, we never see him a part of a team again, because he was almost a member of a, that gangster like family with, you
right.
know whoever, I forget the guy's name who was in charge, and then Aaron, and then some of the other thugs that were with him, and then waiting for him to get back. I mean, it was like the villain, outlaw version of a family, and seeing how everyone from that dies, and then he lost Aaron the way he did, and then essentially loses the kid that he had with her. I think there was a part of him, he just said, I'm closing all that off and I'm not doing that ever again. And so that I think adds to some of the tragic backstory because we don't see him operating with people anymore after that, for the
That's a
most
really
part.
good point. Yeah, it's true. Um, he seems to be a sole proprietor from this point going forward.
Except for the droid, but I
Yeah,
guess and there's always something about me. I watch, and that these two guys are going to end up at odds, and you just watch Colby and Nero, just on the streets together, running around, chasing each other. They get a little bit of a taste of the good life with the candy, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, this is great!" And there was a level of like you already knew this is gonna. And he's so sad when Cad's gonna kill his childhood best friend in the end, but you know when you're watching it, I don't feel sorry for Cad Bane necessarily, because I'm like, I know this dude's a bad dude. Like, I know this guy's a bad guy. He made his choices for sure. But whenever you can introduce a level of depth to a character without
right.
taking away anything that character is already established in the universe, I'm all about it. I just didn't think they would be able to. And I always say Lucasfilm Animations built up a lot of goodwill, so I shouldn't doubt them. I was doubting. Here I am doubting again, and they delivered. So I had a lot of fun with those 6 shorts. Every time they do one of these Tales of shows, I feel like they do a really good job. I didn't love Tales of the Empire that much. I didn't think it was bad necessarily, but I thought that Tales of the Jedi and then Tales of the Underworld are significantly better than Tales of the Empire. Tales of the Sith. Is that where we're going next? Perhaps next May the 4th, Tom.
I would love that. I would love to see, and the impatient part of me would love to see almost like when Marvel used to release those release schedules, if they would
Right.
have something that we could look forward to like that, or
Hmm.
maybe something quarterly. I mean, I know this takes a long time for them to do it,
Right.
but I'd also be like surprised if the Maul Shadow Lord show is the only animation show in production, because
They
it
probably
sounds
have
like,
some other shorts like this
yeah,
cooking and everything, so I'm sure.
they usually start those way in advance. So, and
Hmm.
I don't know how long uh, that show is supposed to
Hmm.
run. I don't know if it's gonna run as long as like Rebels or Clone Wars,
I hope
but
it's like a good, few season show. I hope that we get a nice little, like a longer form thing, like 3 seasons maybe. That would be fun. 3 seasons, I could do that.
I guess one question I had for you: do you think we're gonna see? Was his name Lycos, the
Or
character
Lyco,
in
yeah.
Lyco? Do you think we're gonna see him again in something else?
If Asajj is around, it makes sense for him to show up. And Asajj is not a character I think's gonna make the transition to live action. Like I've never really gotten that vibe from them. I mean, it's possible someday, but I think that she's best suited for animation. And if we see her pop up in animation again, it's you know seems like we should see him in some capacity at this point, or at least have an answer on what happens to him, afterwards. So that would make sense to me, but we'll see. I don't, maybe they'll show up in Maul Shadow Lord. I mean, they got to
Yeah.
have some sort of person to go against Maul there, and that makes some sense that she could pop up there. We'll see. I don't know. Well,
Have we ever
Tom,
seen
yeah,
Asajj and Maul go at it? I don't think
I
so.
don't think we've. Yes, 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 yes. With Obi-Wan,
Oh, right. Okay,
again,
you're
when
right.
the two of them took on Savage and Maul and the carrier thing. That's one of my favorite battles too. That's one
Yeah,
of my
that was
favorite
good.
duels.
There,
That's a
there's a
good one.
lot of great anime.
There's
I,
so
I
many.
I actually studied animation briefly, and still fascinated by it. I'm just fascinated by the process. Yeah, it's something, you know, for me, it was kind of, I picked it up as kind of a hobby, but I studied it
Right.
pretty closely. I actually took courses, and just the time that goes into it is,
It's
you
incredible what
really
they
have
can
to
do.
dive into it. So like when I see some of these things on screen that they do, I'm just like baffled with how they pull it off. It's truly amazing.
Mhm.
And it looks
It's
like some of the shots there look like they're from live action.
it looks so good. It's crazy how far you go watch like the early Clone Wars episodes and think how far they've, advanced in 20 years. It's incredible. It's incredible. Anytime they drop something, I marvel at it for sure. Well, fun stuff here. I will post this as soon as we get off here. Everyone, watch, like, and subscribe. We will see you later. Tune in Thursday night, Star Wars News Net Live, talking about Andor Arc 3. It's crazy to think that in like 24 hours, we'll be 3/4 of the way done with Andor Season 2. It's both amazing and sad at the same time. But
Right.
Tom, I'm looking forward to talking to you all about that on Thursday. Thanks for joining me this evening, everyone. For Light and Life, remember, we're all the Republic out there, even in the underworld.